Good evening and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for January 13th, 2021. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:30. First, let's go ahead and rise and join me in the flag salute. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Natalie, if you could help us out with roll call.
Commissioner Allison.
Here.
Commissioner Allred.
Present.
Commissioner Lord.
Present.
Commissioner May.
Present.
Chairperson Simison.
Present. Thank you, Natalie. We're going to move forward to public comment. This is the time set aside for anyone wishing to address the Planning Commission on items not listed in any other place on this agenda. California law does not allow the Planning Commission to take action in response to your statements at this meeting, but your concerns may be referred to a staff or set for a hearing at a later date. And I didn't start off the meeting, but obviously under our situation, you can view the meeting at cityoflaverne.org/stream and submit any public comments to planning@cityoflaverne.org.
So far, Mr. Chair, we have not received any requests to speak under public comment.
Okay, go ahead and move forward into item 1, which is approval of minutes. Do I have any motions to approve the minutes from the December 9th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve minutes from December 9th, 2020 meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And I will abstain since I was not present at that meeting. All right, I'm going to close the approval of minutes and move into public hearings. We're going to start off with item number 2, which is case number 124-20 CUP, resolution 1268. Eric, do you have anything to add?
I do not. Maya does have a report. The applicant has not signed into Zoom yet. So if he's watching, please log into the Zoom account so we can let you in the room. Otherwise, he'll just be watching on YouTube, I suppose. But Maya can give her report.
Wonderful.
Good evening, Mr. Chairperson and Commissioners. The applicant, Landon Benny Reese, is requesting a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a vintage clothing and antiques warehouse with retail sales outlet, Reese's Vintage Pieces, at 2984 First Street, Suite B. In January 2020, Mr. Reese executed a lease agreement to rent the approximately 1,200 square foot space at 2984 First Street, Suite B, which is located within the Laverne Business Center complex, which is within the industrial district of the Aero Corridor specific plan area. The term of the lease agreement commenced in February 2020, and on July 21st, 2020, Mr. Reese submitted an application for a business license and a certificate of use and occupancy. The use as described in the application for the certificate of use and occupancy didn't clearly align with any of the uses that are identified within the Aero Corridor specific plan use chart. And so staff requested Mr. Reese to file a request for a classification of use. The classification of use request was heard by the Development Review Committee at their October 20th, 2020 meeting. And at that meeting, they approved a motion to classify the use as a warehouse with sales outlet greater than 20%. And so per the Aero Corridor specific plan, warehouses with sales outlets that are greater than 20% are only permitted with a conditional use permit in the industrial district. Therefore, a conditional use permit is required in order for Reese's Vintage Pieces to move in and operate at the location at 2984 First Street, Suite B. And so Mr. Reese has filed a request for the CUP in conformance with this requirement. The business itself consists of 3 main components, one being retail, the second being photography, and the third being warehousing. So the first component is retail. It's a vintage clothing and antiques store. So That's what he sells. Most of the retail sales are conducted online through websites such as Etsy or in person at trade shows. The second component of the business is photography. Since most of the products are sold online, he does need to photograph all of the items in order to advertise them on the websites. And so parts of the tenant space are set up to be designated photography areas where you can photograph all of the products. The third component of the business is warehousing. The location is primarily used to store all of the items items in inventory that eventually get sold online. So there are no employees other than Mr. Reese, though occasionally he does receive assistance from his wife. Furthermore, there are no scheduled or advertised business hours for the facility. All purchases are sent via mail. In the event that a client does wish to pick up their item in person, he can accommodate that request, but they do need to make an appointment in order to pick up the item from the business. Because of this, Mr. Reese makes a minimal number of trips to the suite, on a regular basis, typically just to pick up items that need to be shipped out to customers. This being noted, staff is aware that 2 events have occurred at the site based on information posted to social media. 2 events have been advertised to occur at the site based on information posted to social media. And we're aware that at least 1 event has occurred, and this was without city approval or review. So we have added conditions of approval to the resolution that would require any future special events occurring at the site to obtain city approval via special event permit if necessary. In terms of parking, the AirAccorder specific plan classifies that mixed warehouse, manufacturing, and office uses, which is essentially what the Laverne Business Center complex is, requires a minimum parking ratio of 1 parking space per 500 gross square feet of building area. Now, the Laverne Business Center complex, it's 6 buildings on 1 parcel with approximately 66 tenants. And in total, there are 156 parking spaces that serve the entire center. So based on the 1 per 500 ratio, the approximately 1,200 square foot space that Reese's Vintage Pieces would be utilizing would be required to provide 3 parking spaces. But based on the nature of the business operations, again, it's only Mr. Reese. He has no employees and he makes a minimum number of trips there. And clients are only allowed to go to the store on an appointment only basis. It's not anticipated that they would ever need more than the 3 spaces at any given time. But in the event that parking issues do arise, there is a condition of approval in the resolution that would provide for, a remedy to those issues should they arise in the future. Currently, the tenant space, the floor plan only includes an office and a restroom, with the rest of the space kind of just being an open area. No tenant improvements are proposed, and the open space area is going to be utilized primarily for the storage and photography areas. So there will be multiple clothing racks, displays of various antique and vintage items, and then 2 kind of photo shoot areas. The project site has a general plan designation of industrial and is located within the industrial district of the AirAccorder specific plan area. It's bounded on the north side by the PR 4.5D residential zone, the mobile home park zone to the south, and the industrial district to the west, and the city of Pomona to the east. Both the police department and the fire department have reviewed the request for the conditional use permit, and neither have any concerns with issuing it, though the fire department did add a few conditions of approval to the resolution. 1, that they have adequate spacing in the aisles per the fire code. 2, that the fire department does an inspection, which is typical for any new business. And 3, that they submit a fully dimensioned floor plan so that way the fire department can adequately calculate the appropriate occupancy load for the facility. Other conditions of approval that have been added will address any potential issues that could arise from the operation of this business. So a notice of public hearing was published in the Inland Valley Daily Bulletin on January 1st, 2021. And notices were mailed out to surrounding property owners on December 29th, 2020. We've not received any comments or complaints about the proposed use there. So staff recommends and the Development Review Committee recommends approval of resolution number 1268, approving case number 12420 CUP to the Planning Commission based on this staff report and the findings in the draft conditions of approval. I don't believe the applicant has joined the call yet, but if you do have any questions, I'm available from staff to answer those for you. Thank you.
Jason, you're muted.
I noticed that after a second. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Maya. That was a great presentation. While we wait, let's give Landon Reese a minute. And while we do that, we will go ahead and open the public comment and see if we have any calls or emails regarding this case.
None have been received so far.
Okay, and I think with what Maya said about notification and no comment, we can go ahead and close public comment and move on to questions from the commission. Let's start with Jeff.
The only question I have is, since I guess the business home is in the applicant's home in Pomona, it said in the staff report. So this is the retail site. So I assume that any retail sales, Laverne would be the point of sale. It's not really a land use issue, but it's an issue for the city, to benefit the city if we get some sales tax out of it. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, he will be required to get a business license, but I believe most of the sales will be conducted online. So I'm not quite sure how our finance department handles that.
Well, I'm just thinking, since there's a showroom and products are being shown in Laverne, the sales, point of sale should be Laverne, I would think. I don't know.
Eric, do you have any insight into that?
I was hoping Bob Crest might.
Well, since the law has changed and online sales are taxable, the city is getting quite a bit of money from the online onslaught. And Jeff, I'm not absolutely sure whether the point of sale is actually the buyers. I think that's what it is.
I think so too.
For online sales, it's the buyer's residence location usually, and for in-person, it would be Laverne if they walk into the showroom and buy. At least that's my understanding.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Jason, do you want to go ahead?
I don't have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thomas?
Just one. I know he says now that the use is minimal, but what conditions are in place that keep it that way? What happens if he just decides one day he wants to run a thrift store out of there? What safeguards are in place?
So the community development department and police department can have the authority to do regular inspections. So if it, I guess if he did start advertising kind of regular business hours and did start accepting kind of walk-ins, we could take the conditional use permit back to the Planning Commission for review. I guess that's probably the only safeguard. The way that he's explained what his business is, he's really emphasized that most of the business is conducted online, and essentially this space serves as a warehouse to store a lot of the overflow inventory that he had been kind of storing at his home, which is primarily where the business is operated. As indicated in the staff report, he doesn't have internet service at the site, so he's not actually conducting any sales at the facility today.
Nothing further.
All right. And Phil, do you have any questions?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Maya, I have two questions. One, the two social events posted on social media that you mentioned. You're saying that, and this is maybe just a standard answer, but what qualifies as a social event that you have to apply for a permit?
So typically a special event, what would trigger a special event permit is something that would be open to the public, or that you would be utilizing kind of, parking spaces that aren't necessarily just for your business. So in this case, one of the events was a grand opening event where they were utilizing the parking lot. And then they also had people inside in the venue. This was during the summer, so that was kind of against the health orders at the time to have those people gathering indoors, but also to have the vehicles in the parking lot with food trucks and things like that. We would typically require them to submit a site plan, so that way we can vet it with the various departments in the city, including the fire department and the police department, to make sure that, you know, if we have food trucks or people milling about in a parking lot, that there remains access in the event of an emergency for public safety. So something like that, like what they had done, we typically would want to review that. It doesn't always rise to the threshold of requiring a special event permit, but at minimum, we like to be aware of it and route it to the various departments to make sure that they don't have any issues or concerns safety-wise.
So there's no threshold. That sounds like a big event, food trucks, roping off the parking lot. Yeah, that makes sense. But, you know, half a dozen people at some sort of event, does that qualify? I mean,
So
it seems
again,
kind of arbitrary.
it depends on the site. So, you know, if it's something, again, where you're going to have people gathering in a parking lot, even if
How
it's,
many
you know,
people?
only, there's no threshold in terms of the number of people. It's more just when you have obstructions in the parking lot. So I can give an example. Sometimes they do like Halloween events or like Easter events in the shopping centers, where they might have people occupying the parking spaces. There's no way to say how many people are going to attend. You can't always say how many people are going to attend. It's more so about making sure the proper measures are in place to ensure everyone's safety. And we can't do that if we're not aware of the event in advance and we haven't reviewed the site plan in terms of where they're going to be locating the cars and where they're going to be locating the food trucks, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. But if they don't have food trucks or anything else, the only real difference is he's not running a storefront, right? It's just a warehouse that he's running right now. So any people would be more than typical.
Well,
What I guess what I'm getting at is just for me, and I know it's maybe a side point, but it seems like a requirement for him to make application with no real threshold of where the application starts is.
I'll clarify a little bit, Commissioner or Chair. We do have administrative regulations which do have those thresholds spelled out. Your scenario of him having 12 people that are just inside the store would not be a special event permit. Just like any other retail establishment are allowed to have, as long as they don't exceed the occupancy limits set by the fire and building department. As Maya indicated, once they have food trucks and things out in the parking lot, that does require a special event permit because outside their normal business space. That's kind of the idea in a nutshell. But we do have regulations that have more thresholds on special events. If you have over, I think, 100 or 200 in the park, Maya, do you know the number? Even in a city park, if you exceed a certain number of people, then it requires a special event permit. So we have a bunch of different ways that a parade requires a special event permit. So those are all, they are spelled out, but in this case, having people inside would not, having stuff outside would.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate it.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
He has to get a conditional use permit because he's doing more than 20% retail at that location, correct?
Correct. Well, it's basically a retail use with a warehouse with a retail use component, and that type of use in the Area Corridor specific plan requires a conditional use permit.
And have we heard from any of the other businesses about any concerns that increased traffic in that business might cause?
No.
Nothing further.
All right. Actually, Thomas actually asked partially what my second question was. So thank you for that. That's perfect. It was the idea. It is a warehouse. It's not a storefront, right? It's not set up to be like a retail shop like you'd see downtown. Correct? His business model does not include that at this point.
That is his intent.
Mm-hmm.
That being noted, if you were to go into the tenant space, it doesn't look like your typical warehouse. As you can see in the photos in the staff report, it looks very much like a retail store. But based on his narrative of his business operations, he's indicated he has no intent of operating it as a traditional retail store. The intent is really to operate it as a warehouse with limited retail sales.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the commission? All right, let's go ahead and move forward. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 1268, case number 12420 CUP?
I move approval.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll make a motion to approve case number 124-20 CUP.
All right, Phil, I think you had a bit of a lag in that. Who was the first motion? Yeah, I thought so. Jeff, I think already beat you to it because of
All right.
technical difficulties. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, looks like the approval of resolution number 1268 will move forward. And let's move on to case. Thank you, Maya, very much for your presentation. All right, let's move forward to case number 12720 RLP. Eric, do you have anything to add?
While Candace is joining the call, the commissioners did receive 3 public comments that we received for this item, and we did have a request for somebody to call in, so just want to remind you of that. We will make that call as soon as you open the public hearing. Candace is now on and can give her report.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, commissioners.
Hi, Candace.
So the Community Development Department received a request from the applicant, Linda Lockhart Wilkinson, requesting the Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council to relocate the home and bungalow located at 2109 White Avenue to 2321 First Street. The house at 2109 White Avenue was built in 1912 on the southwest corner of White Avenue and First Street. The home is 1,449 square feet with a detached garage and a detached 359 square foot bungalow. The property is located in the Old Town Laverne specific plan area and is zoned medium density residential. Staff has been working with a developer at the 2109 White Avenue site for a multifamily development, and after multiple attempts to save or relocate the older home there, it was determined at the City Council meeting last October that the home couldn't be demolished and that the home could be demolished and salvaged, as it was determined to not represent a significant historic building worthy of historic preservation. The developer agreed to offer a local only salvage, noticing for homeowners in Laverne to repurpose at no charge architectural elements from the house for their personal use on their homes. At the City Council meeting during the public comment, the current applicant of this application, Linda Wilkinson, spoke and expressed her interest in moving the home to her property at 2321 First Street. The developer agreed to not demolish the home for at least 90 days to give Ms. Wilkinson time to research the possibility of relocation. Since that council meeting, staff has been working with the applicant to relocate the home and bungalow to her property on First Street. The applicant has also obtained an agreement with the owners of the property, a contract with the building movers, and has been in contact with the developer to be sure everything remains on schedule. The applicant currently owns 5 older, some historic homes in the city and enjoys restoring them and keeping the original character of the structures. She has a dream to create what she calls Lordsburg Heritage Square on her 14,000 square foot lot, which would include the current historic home at 2321 First Street, the Colonel Heath House, which was built in 1885, the recently approved accessory dwelling unit, the relocated house, and the relocated bungalow. If the City Council approves the applicant's request to relocate the home and bungalow, The applicant hopes to move the structures before the end of February. If the city council ultimately approves the relocation, the home must be prepared, released from the foundation, meet all the necessary building code engineering requirements, obtain all public works permits, and comply with all applicable zoning standards. Provisions will be made that any structure or portion of any structure relocated must be brought to conformance with current building, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, zoning, and other applicable codes of the city. No structure or portion of any structure which is relocated will cause any harm to or be detrimental to property and improvements in the district within a radius of 1,000 feet. Also, if the relocation is approved, a precise plan application would be required for the review of the site plan, zoning, design, elevations, and all of that for the site that it will be relocated to. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council for the relocation of the home and bungalow located at 2109 White Avenue to 2321 First Street. Staff also received 3 public comments by email in support of this recommendation, including one person wishing to speak. So I would recommend that you open the public comment first. And I believe Eric Scher has the person on the line or possibly has them calling them, in the process of calling them.
All right, Candace, thank you very much. We will go
Thank
ahead and take your recommendation and open the public comment. Eric, have you got her on the line yet?
Okay, Lily, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you're live with the Planning Commission. You can go ahead and speak now.
Okay, thank you so much. Honorable Planning Commission members, my name is Lily Breno, Luverne resident for 15 years. I would like to address public hearing regarding the relocate house from 2109 White Avenue to 2321 First Street. I stand with Linda, 100%. This lady is preserving our living history on her own cost and effort. I list my detailed reasons in my October 5th email to support her. Lobster Harris. Okay, not only was this house built in 1912, and also it carries so many people's memories. It's the volume of Old Town Laverne, also named as Lobster. How much is the volume of memory? Why is it so important to keep a tradition just like the Christmas morning Santa Claus? The volume of the couch is priceless. It's the inner connection of the family, a community, a state, and a country. Someone lived a long time and always want to come back. Nothing is better than home, hometown. Since I moved in Laverne, I went back to my. Sorry. Let me finish. Okay, sorry. Okay, so. Okay. Okay, so continue.
Yes, please.
Since I moved in Laverne, I went back to my hometown. It's a fast-growing metropolitan. People are so proud of the power of the government. Convenience of high tech. Let me finish. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Kids no food running too crazy, but let me finish last minute. Okay. People are so proud and powerful of the government, convenience, high tech knowledge, but no freedom of speech, no democracy, no belief, no trust. It's digit Christian. I miss my new hometown where my 2 kids were born and grow up, even though they are crazy because of lockdown. Okay. I came back here and never look back. I would never forget the welcome flower on my porch many years ago, the cookie from my neighbor every Christmas. I like the little charming town. I start to poke boxes, diaper on the neighbor's porch to welcome their new baby. I provide free face masks and sanitize in a difficult time from last year. I hope our next generation will continue the tradition of the Laverne. So our country is so divided from November 3rd to January 20. Okay, too much hate between a neighbor with difficult politics stance. But high density housing is coming to our city. We will welcome new neighbors, becoming part of a community. Welcome, warm welcome, but not hate. Okay. 1.5 years ago, I worked with neighbors to protect our White Avenue community from violence. I got to know more people who were born and grow up in our town. I know they were stand by Linda, even though they didn't send email to address this issue. Please give her support as much as you can, okay? I admire her for what she's doing for our residents. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. We appreciate your comments and participating in the meeting.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak for this issue, okay? I really want to invite Linda to my house to have a green tea someday, even though I don't really personally know her. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
No other public comments have been received or
Okay,
requests to speak.
perfect. Then we will go ahead and close the public comment and move forward to questions from the commission. Let's start with Thomas today.
Yeah, I just want to know who's paying for the move. I know Linda indicated that she's paid 10%. Where's the other 90% coming from?
I'm sorry, I meant to mention that. It's Linda, the applicant is responsible for all of the costs associated with relocating the home.
No further questions.
All right. Jeff, do you have any questions?
No questions. I just noted that it is this is being recommended for approval both by staff and the DRC. And so I'm sure that staff has envisioned the land use approvals for the, and maybe the parcel issues, whether there's going to be 2 parcels or 1 parcel. Would you speak to that? Just what the plans are, what is envisioned there in terms of the land use approval and for the house?
Sure, for where they're moving it to.
Yeah.
How it complies with zoning.
Right.
So it's
Zoning.
it's in the Old Town Laverne specific plan. It's medium density residential, so they could have up to 40 units per acre. It's 14,000 square feet. So, and they're going to have 4 units. So they're well under the allowed density.
On a single parcel, you think, or will there be?
Single, they do not plan on subdividing it. It will be one single parcel.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Jason, do you have any questions?
Just kind of along what Jeff was already asking about the future site of this home, but I guess also, is there anything that's going to be, because if we are preserving it and we are moving it and she's paying for it, is there anything down the road that prevents her from selling it?
No.
Is there any way, I mean, if we're doing this and I'm voting, to move forward with it, I'm doing that because I want to preserve the history of Laverne. And I see a letter and what they want to do and sounds like we're aligned, but what's preventing somebody, maybe a son or a daughter 10 years from now, somebody that's not aligned the same as we are today? Is there some way we can prevent, make sure that it stays historic?
It's not historic.
Well, preserve the history of Laverne. I'm using the wrong word, but the reason I vote to do this is because I agree. I think there's a lot of history that should be preserved. But what's the guarantee that that's going to stay 10 years, 20 years from now?
There is no guarantee. And I'm not sure, maybe Mr. Kress can chime in here, but I'm not sure that that's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, the issue was taken to the city council and debated somewhat, but they determined that this particular house is not of historical significance Historical Society weighed in on that. And so, you know, this is, if you will, kind of a compromise measure where it's going to be moved and at least for the time being preserved. It's part of, again, the Heritage Square plan. So, but, you know, we can't really declare, at least the commission can't at this point, declare it historic because the council has already determined that it's not.
Okay. And the cost to move, did I miss that or do we not care? Like what's the, do we know?
I do not know.
And I don't think we care. I think we care about it being conducted safely by a licensed moving company that knows what they're doing and you know, Public Works.
Yeah, what I'm getting at, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the cost of moving it, you know, to us is zero, is what I'm being told.
Yes.
Yes.
The cost of, if we didn't have someone raising their hand saying, I want to move it and I'll pay for it, what would the city do?
They wouldn't do anything. The developer for the new project would tear it down.
Would there be a cost to the city in that?
No.
Okay.
So Candace, I'm sure there's a site plan on how these buildings will be situated, their appropriate setbacks, front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, all that, right? No problems.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Phil, do you have any questions? Is Commissioner May still with us?
What is this Lordsburg Heritage Square? That's just a loose term, or is there something technical?
There is nothing technical. That is something that that the applicant just created herself.
Okay. I think it's a great idea. It will preserve it versus tear it down, and I think that it's a great thing for the community.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Candace, so just to clarify, our recommendation to council is, if we recommend to council, it'll be that we're recommending that it's okay to move a house from one site to another site. And when that house gets there, it'll fit on the site and the zones. And then once that's approved, they'll hold it up to building code and everything else. And that'll be handled at a staff level, correct? So this is a house move, really?
Correct.
And that's the long and short of it. So
yes.
Yeah, the historical side, everything is outside the box here. We're just approving or recommending the council to approve the house, if moved, will be in conformance.
This is a very old section of the municipal code that hasn't been used in many, many years. And just researching, you know, what it would take to move this house, we came upon this process that, you know, has the planning commission recommending to the city council. But yeah, Jason, you stated exactly what is being asked, and if it's approved, what will be done.
Okay, that makes it a lot simpler if you take all the other outside things. Thank you very much for clarifying.
I have one more question if I can.
Of course.
The cost of the city, I know we're saying is zero, but are we not involving police to shut down roads where, I mean, is it going to be moved in the dark of night, you know, and avoiding power lines? And I mean, so there's no cost to the city, zero.
There is no cost. There are permits that are required that will be obtained by the applicant, which all include fees associated.
Thank you.
Candace, I had just a quick question on the actual plan too. If you, and just looking at it, you have the 4 structures, the existing single story. It looks like there was a proposed ADU that hasn't been built yet,
Correct.
right? You
Mhm.
have on the, I'm guessing north is up, so like the northwest corners where this house is going to go. And then on
Right.
the south, it said relocated bungalows. That's an existing bungalow on the site that needs to be moved to make room, or is that from?
No, that's coming from the same property also.
So there's 2 structures being
You're
moved.
approving 2 structures to be relocated.
Okay, and then it looks like on the southwest corner, there's a future space if she finds another house to move there.
I
The
think
allocation
that,
space.
no, I think that was just to designate the house to be relocated. I think that was just meant to be
Okay.
for that house. I think it probably should have come off.
Okay. All right, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions from the commission? All right. Do I have a motion to approve? Let me go back to my page. Sorry, the PDF online is a little bit slow. Case number 12720 RLP, which would be the recommendation of approval to council.
I'll move approval.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, let's take it to vote. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, looks like the ayes have it. Candace, thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Eric, is there anything you'd like to add before I adjourn the meeting?
Just that, as a reminder, I know Natalie polled most of you. I think she talked to all of you, maybe. We will be adjourning this meeting to a special date meeting for the next planning commission on Wednesday, February 24th, based on some timing issues with some of those projects that are scheduled for that agenda. So appreciate your flexibility in that. So instead of the second Wednesday of February, we'll have it on February 24th, the last Wednesday.
All right.
Great.
With that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting here. I have 7:11. Happy New Year, everybody, and I'll see you next month.
You guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.